If you want to compete at the highest level in any motorsport discipline, you're going to need two things. One, to be incredibly rich, which most of us are not, and the second is some partners or some sponsors to help you support you on your way to living your dream. But how do you get those sponsors? Well, that's what we're going to be answering today. I'm Dave, this is Catch My Drift, and this is how to get sponsorship in drifting. Okay guys, this is not going to be a super professional webinar. I haven't anything written down. I'm just going to kind of go off the top of my head. We're super busy with all the other series we're doing, so I'm just going to throw this back to you guys. You've been requesting it in the videos, and also we want to give back, because that's the whole point of this series. It's not just about us knowing things, it's about everybody knowing things and making drifting better.
I drink and I know things.
What gives me the right to talk about sponsorship? Well, I've probably been involved in maybe €1 million worth of sponsorship deals and partnership deals across the 6 or 8 years I've been working in the sport, and I've probably sponsored about €100,000 worth. So I have a pretty good idea of the do's and the don'ts in the industry, especially around drifting, and what people like and they don't like. And I've spoken to some of the biggest companies and worked with some of the biggest companies, so I kind of know what they're expecting. So I'm going to try and give that knowledge back to you guys, and I'm going to start with the first point, which is make a plan. I have no idea how many drifters have just floated through years and years of drifting with no plan, and their biggest problem, they focus on the car. Everything is about the car. Oh, I'm going to get this turbo, I'm going to get this gearbox. The sponsors and partners do not care at all about your car. They just want it well presented and competitive, but it's not the reason they're going to partner with you. They're going to partner with you because you've got a plan of social media, because you're a brand ambassador. Most importantly, you're going to try and sell their products to your fans or people watching you. The car can't sell the product on its own. It's an inanimate object, so it can't do anything. So you're the whole driving force behind it, which means make a plan. And I always say the first thing you need to do is write that down. What is my year plan? What events am I going to do? How am I going to get the budget for the cars? Can I do this without partners' support and still, hit the marks? Because if you're just relying on money coming in from partners, you mightn't be able to, you might get one partner in for half the money and then you can't do the season and then you're in an awkward position. So I would say plan it out. Forget about the car. The car is kind of your choice. What are you going to do on social media? What are you going to do to promote this company, and how are you going to be the best brand ambassador ever so that they will actually invest in you? The 3 ways that you can get partnerships on board will be services, parts, and investment. Obviously we all want investment because that's cash and that actually gives you proper budget, but sometimes the parts and services can cost you a lot less when it comes to building the car, so you free up some budget otherwise. But one thing that I would always stress to people is it's a difficult game. You don't get money for free. Nobody does. They're expecting for every €10 that you get, you're putting an hour's work in. So always look at your lifestyle and see, is it realistic for me to put that amount of time in? If you look at it, a professional driver puts 365 days into their partners. You might not be able to do that. So sometimes I would always suggest, don't worry about getting partnerships. It's a very hard way of getting money. If you've got a good job and you can work extra hours in the evening, or you can work extra hours and just get that money guaranteed, that might be like the same amount of time and effort as sponsorship, and it might even be easier to you if you're not savvy on social media, if you're not someone that likes a lot of doing lots of videos and stuff and all that kind of thing. Then just do your own job that you're already an expert at and get more money for it. So that could be an option there. But I know you guys are watching this video because you want to know about the social media stuff and all that kind of stuff. That's where we're going from now. So to summarize, if you're a local drifter, grassroots or pro-am, you don't need a huge budget. Go local, go to the people you know, go to your friends, go to your family. If you're moving on to pro-am and at your bottom end pro-am, try and get yourself to a position where maybe your own job can cover the costs of it by doing some extra hours. If you're not in that position and you want to get actual partners, let's move on to that now. Okay, so you're in pro-am or pro and you want to get some partnership and sponsorships on board. Remember, I'm going to use the word partnerships over sponsorship because partnership is what it is. A company essentially is going to give you parts, services, or money in the hope that your persona, your charisma, and your sales tactics and your brand, being a brand ambassador, is going to sell them more products. That's the point. Selling more stuff. It's not, here's some money, put a sticker on your car and just drive your car as normal. So you got to have a plan of how you're going to impress those partners and sponsors. That always starts for me with the proposal. Now you can get a graphic designer to put a proposal together for you, but I would always advise that you do it yourself. You can get templates on the likes of Envato for €50 and you can start working around on Photoshop or on, PowerPoint, and you can put it together yourself. But what I like about proposals is you learn a lot about your own program. You learn about what you're offering. So if you put your proposal together and it's really light on the ground and you're saying, well, I'm going to do 2 Instagram posts every race weekend and I'll put a sticker on the car. it's going to be a 2-page proposal. So what a proposal does is force you to fill that out so that you know there's a good argument there for when you go to a partner or a sponsor that they should invest in you because you've got so much on the line. Now obviously if you're starting off at ground zero, your social media following and all that kind of stuff is not going to be huge. But at least if you have a plan of where it's going to go, then there's some confidence in you from potential partners. Now I know what you're going to say. It's alright for you guys because you have, X amount of social media followers, or James Dean or Chelsea Denofa, these guys have huge followings. It's easy for them to put a proposal together because they have so much to back it. It doesn't matter. They all started the same with nothing. So what you've got to do is have not only a plan of what you're doing right now, and your social media figures might not be super high, but what are you going to do for the year? How are you going to grow that? What's your expectation of growth? And all of this motivates you to actually do that. And then it comes down to the really basics of what those sponsors are going to want, or those partners are going to want, which is attention. And that attention is going to come from social media posting, growing your social media channels, and it's also going to come from the likes of vlogging and all that kind of jazz, which might seem super scary to an amateur driver, how he gets into all that. But the one amazing thing about all of it, technology is so cheap right now, it doesn't cost a whole lot. So for example, you can get PowerPoint or Photoshop. For example, Photoshop is a very valuable tool to have for putting logos on cars and all that kind of stuff. Costs about 150 quid for the year, and you can go on Skillshare and learn how to use it. If you want to make vlogs, well, a GoPro is going to cost you about 500 quid, and you can just, it's a button, that's all you got to do is press it on and off. When it comes to editing, every Mac and PC either has iMovie or Windows Movie Maker built in for free, and you can just, they're very easy to use, so you can just start making vlogs yourself. Even if you look at James Dean, he's using GoPro and it's one of those basic editing software suites, and it's fine. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's the content, not the editing, that people are going to be wanting. So if you're not into vlogging or you're not into social media content, you've got to start creating a lot more of that. That is where you're going to place your sponsorship. That's where you're going to grow your following, and it also means that you're in control of your own media. A lot of drifters make a huge mistake of going to events saying, oh, the live stream gets blah blah blah, a million views. It does, but you're only on that live stream if you don't qualify for like 4 minutes. At least if you're in control of your own media, whether it's Instagram stories, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, anything. Get on everything, start promoting on everything. And when it comes to vlogging, a big problem with vlogging that I see with a lot of people is that they're afraid. They don't like the sound of their own voice. They're very nervous about it. Everyone is. Even I don't like the sound of my own voice, but it's necessary for me to where I need to go. I still get nervous. I still mess up. It doesn't seem like that, but there's a lot of cuts on the shelf that you guys don't see. And normally, drivers keep that then. I'm going to do a live Q&A this Monday at 8. But this Sunday on the and vlogging is one of those things where you get your personality across. People start to follow your personality, not just your car because it's green or blue or has a nice set of wheels or a kit. It's very important to get your personality out there, and this is what you can show to your potential partners and say, hey, this is me, this is what I do. Now what I would suggest to people, if you've never vlogged before, there's 2 big pieces of advice I'm going to give you. Number 1 is your friends are always your biggest worry. That's the strange thing. You're always afraid of what people will think. Oh, the lads will slag me if I'm on a vlog. They'll think this, that, and the other. The lads are not going to pay for you to go drifting. Remember that. They're just going to hang around, but you're not going to get investment from them. So you have to be a little bit more shameless and put yourself out there. If you don't like the sound of your own voice and all that kind of stuff, or you're afraid of it, vlog for a while without showing anybody. Just get into the practice of it. Start practicing at home on your vlogs and your edits, and eventually you'll get to the point where it becomes semi-normal to do it and you're not so nervous about it. I know it comes more naturally to some people, but remember, we're talking about partnerships here. If you're not offering them social media, you're not offering them personality, you can't have an excuse to the partner and say, well, I'm not very good at anything, but can I have some parts services or money, please? That's not how it works. So you're going to have to get better at those things, just like you're going to have to get better at your driving. So a big important part is to get your media game up to scratch. Oh, and a little note on social media, get yourself a scheduling app. So if you go to like later.com, which is what we use here at Drift Games, you can schedule your posts on Instagram and Facebook for a whole week. So a lot of people will say, oh, I don't have the time with work and stuff to be doing constant social media. Sit down for an hour or 2 a week, put your social media together. That's all you got to do, and it'll schedule it out for every day, meaning that your account is much more active. When it comes to algorithms on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, posting more means you're more active, means you're going to get pushed a little bit more than one video every 3 months or 4 months. So that's just a piece of advice. But once you've all that, your social media is bumping along, you've got your vlogs coming out, you've got your proposal, it's nice, shiny and fresh. Now you're ready to start approaching partners. And this is the bit that also a lot of people make big mistakes in. One of the most common mistakes people make at this is going above your level. So for example, if you're an amateur drifter and you've got 5,000 followers on Instagram, say you have 2,000 followers on Instagram, and you're going to go and approach, McDonald's or Monster Energy or Red Bull, you're wasting your time, because those guys have enough money to sponsor the very highest people in the sport. Some will have programs where they like to invest, but generally what I've found over the years that you already need to have a big social media platform to even come up on their radar. So what you're looking for really is small to medium businesses that are growing that you can help grow with them. You only need to approach a couple of people in your locality who will be happy to support you. The local, I know drifters that have been sponsored by the local takeaways, by the local, co-op, by the local hardware store. That's all you need at the start, just your entry fees and enough for fuel and tires. That's a good starting point. So don't think you need to go and approach Red Bull and Mobil One and stuff at the very start of your drift career. They're not going to be interested. They're looking for big promotion. There's lots of companies who are in manufacturing or retail that have never received a proposal from a drifter because a drifter said, well, maybe they wouldn't be interested. That's the thing. You want to be the only guy hitting that company, not like, say, most of the parts companies like WiseFab or Link or whatever, who get like 75,000 emails a day of partnerships and sponsorships. You're just going to get lost in the crowd. Try and find something more unique. Go to companies that are a little bit out of the box. That's a big piece of advice. A big part of getting partners across the line, this is just me coming off the top of my head, is that they're always worried about, well, if I give you this, how do I know I'm getting anything back out of it in return? We've done a lot of deals where we will say, give us a discount code, and if they put that discount code in, they get 10% off or whatever. And that means that they can actually equate how much is coming in from your side or how many people are buying it with your discount code. So you can actually go back to them down the line and say, hey, how's it working? They're going, oh, it's working great. We got a load of sales. And you might be able to hit them up for a little bit more investment in the future. Another thing that is splitting the fee. If you say, I want €5,000 for a year, so I'll tell you what, give me €2,500, and then 6 months into the contract or halfway through the season, we'll have a look at the second half. This gives them a little bit more. They don't have to fully commit, and they kind of get back away with half the money. And it also puts you under pressure to do exactly what you've said in your proposal, or halfway through the year, you're going to lose sponsors. So that's another piece of advice. So if you've followed all of those steps, you've got social media games popping, you're doing your vlogs, your car looks great, your builds are coming along great, and you've put out some feelers to the industry and you're starting to get some interest back. What's the next step? Well, I always say, always do a contract. A contract is the most important thing when it comes to partnerships and sponsorships, because if there's a contract drawn up, it doesn't have to be the most super legal one, just even a heads of agreement of, we're going to do this and you guys are going to provide us with this. It means everybody is super clear and you don't get into any arguments down the line where the partner says you should have done more, or they have a valid reason, or you have a valid reason to go back and say, did I promise them that or did I not promise them that? A lot of handshake deals in drifting is a disaster because people are always come out of it sour in one way or the other. If you've it written down on paper, you know exactly what you're expected to do, they know exactly what they're providing you with, and everybody is super clear. So that's another piece of advice. Make sure there's a contract. If you're getting very little from all of your partnerships and the majority, like say 95% of your income for drifting is coming from your own personal job or your own personal investment, it's very difficult for you to see yourself as a brand ambassador because you're only really doing it for 5%. You'll notice this across all of drifting. The more partnerships a driver has, let's say a high-level professional driver, their social media activity is very professional. The lower you go down that scale, to the point where it's almost 95% investment is from the driver themselves, their social media is very, so it's not them as a brand ambassador, it's just them as a person. You'll see funny pictures, them drunk on nights out, conspiracy theories, whatever. They're using social media just as their own personal social media. That's the point where you have to switch about your plan of where you're going. It's a big advice that I'll give to everybody. If you're a brand ambassador and you're going to a company saying, I want, €10,000, and everybody who follows you is now, they're using them as an audience, and then you come out with some crazy tinfoil hat stuff, or you're swearing, or you're shouting at something, or you're, doing illegal activities, all of that stuff is just going to kill that straight away. And believe me, when they're thinking about investing in you, they go back through your social media to see, well, do I want my logo or my company involved in anything that this guy is doing? So at some point, you've got to make that switch where you're going to be a professional athlete, you're going to be a professional drifter, even if you don't have the money to do it. That's where you're heading for in 3 years. And you're also often going to see that on some of the bigger drivers, that they're not putting up stupid stuff on Instagram or Facebook. It's still, can be free and funny, but they're not doing anything controversial because they know they're representing a lot of brands. So that's something you're going to have to make a conscious decision on as you go through your drift career. For some people, being a professional athlete in drifting isn't always possible. It is possible though to get partners to help you out. But what I would say is a lot of people, you have to take it seriously. You have to put the time in. The worst thing I see is the same habits all the time. I finish the season, I plan building the car, I put a proposal together, November, December and January, I just send that to a load of emails and nothing comes back, and then I'm in the same position I was the year before. Very important part about sending those emails is that you need to know who you're sending the email to. If any of your email going to a company is info@ or marketing@, there's so many people in those companies that it might not get to. I've always found a little trick that I do is I'll ring the company and I'll ask, who is the head of marketing? Who decides on the marketing budget? And they'll generally tell you, and I'll say, can I have an email for that person? And therefore, if it's Tom, I'm getting Tom direct. Now, Tom may or may not be interested, but at least I know I'm getting to the right guy who's going to say yes or no. Another thing is not to be disheartened. I would say of 100 companies that I would approach, maybe 10 to 5 would be interested in what we're doing. So you look at the time scale of writing all those and having all those phone calls, then of the 5 and 10 that are interested, maybe 40% will come forward with a deal. So it is a very low percentage, meaning there's high hours and high energy going into getting a low return. But if you do get it, it is awesome and you get to work with some amazing companies. Now on this particular Games Changers project, we've probably been working with 20 to 30 companies across the board on everything we're doing with it. A lot of those relationships have been built up through networking by me over those years, and it's the last piece of advice I'm going to give you guys on how to get partners. A lot of stuff happens face to face, so don't stay to yourself. Even if you're not a big drifter, go to the drift events, go to the shows, go to the events. Go to where those people are, go to their tent, talk to them. Go and network as much as you can, because the majority of times what will happen here is that you'll send an email and a guy will go, I know that guy. So they have a little, they have a little idea of who you are. They had a conversation with you maybe at one point and they'll say, hey, he's a good guy or he seems like a nice guy. That is so much more valuable, 20 times more valuable than the text on an email. So I would say if you've got to get out there, got to network, chat to people, talk to people, get yourself out there in the sport. Even if you're not drifting in that event, be there, chat, introduce yourself. Make a name for yourself. That's the most important thing. So networking is hugely important. Professionality is hugely important. Social media, vlogging, all this stuff is super important if you want to stand a chance, because remember that if your proposal is weaker than the guy next to you, more than likely he's going to get the deal. So you've got to make sure that your plan is pretty solid. Now, if you guys have any questions about partnerships or sponsorships, I think I'm going to do a live Q&A on this because obviously there's so many questions people have for it. So I could only kind of loosely do them in this. So I'm going to check out our social media. I'm going to try and do a live Q&A where I can answer the questions directly and I have a little bit more time. And any of you guys have any questions, of course, we're here to help. I'll give any advice. I'll tell you the truth about what I've done and what experiences I have in the past. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want me to make another one or you want to ask any questions, let us know in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching Catch My Drift. Catch My Drift is kind of our whatever we come up with every week kind of show. So like last week it was top 10s, this week's it's sponsorship. So if you guys have any suggestions for what the next Catch My Drift should be, let us know in the comments as well. And of course, hit the subscribe button and make sure to catch up with us every Tuesday and Thursday on the Games Changers series, where we are doing exactly what we were talking about in this video: getting partners, getting sponsors, and building cars and hoping to become professional drifters. So thanks for your time, guys. We'll see you on the next one. And until then, best of luck in all your endeavors and trying to get yourself some support to go drifting.